Today we will use 2 blocks and begin in a child's pose. Coming onto your shins, you can bring your knees wide, big toes touching, and either extend your arms forward, come down onto your forehead. You could also take your hands by your hips, maybe palms facing up. You could rock side to side on your forehead a couple times. Massage your brow bone, relax your face. Bring all of your awareness into your physical body. Notice how you're feeling right now in the beginning of your practice. You can begin to shift around a little, shifting rib cage and hips side to side. And then start to walk your hands underneath your shoulders. Lift your hips, tuck your toes, and we're going to come into a deep squat, a malasana. If you can bring your hips all the way down with your heels touching the floor, then awesome. If you would like to sit on a block, that can be really useful to help open up through your hips and the front of your torso. If one block isn't enough, you can also take 2 blocks up on the tallest way that you can put them, side by side, for a little bit more stability. Use your arms to encourage your knees open, lifting up through your chest. Roll your shoulders back and down. Maybe you'd like to rock side to side, twist, shift around, any kind of movement here that might feel good. Feel free to explore. And then start to spread your toes. Lift your hips a tiny bit higher. Squeeze your glutes to pull your knees apart, finding an active variation of this posture for a couple of breaths. And then you can lift your hips and walk your hands back forward, coming into your first downward facing dog. Keep your knees bent to really push your chest back. Be open through your shoulders, tilting your hips forward, opposite of a rounded low back. And whatever movement wants to come along with this, so you can pedal out through your heels, shift your weight side to side. You can nod your head yes and no, relax your neck, relax your face, lifting up through the bottoms of your sit bones, lengthening through hamstrings and the front of your torso, breathing deeply. On an inhale, lift your right leg up toward the ceiling, bend your knee, open your hips, and find 3 giant circles with your knee. 3 big circles in one direction and then 3 in the other way. On your inhale, pull your knee up toward the ceiling, and then exhale, bring your foot all the way forward. Lower your left knee to come into a low lunge. You can take your hands to your hips, pull your right hip back, left hip forward, tucking your tailbone like you're trying to round your low back. The more you tuck your pelvis, the more you're going to feel it in the front of your left hip and quad. You're gently inviting hips forward. You can hold it for another big inhale. And then exhale, take your hips back and forward fold, pulling your toes towards your shin. Maybe grab onto 2 blocks here to put underneath your hands. With your breath, you'll inhale, lift your chest, pull your heart forward, and then exhale, pull your hip back as you forward fold. Inhale, micro bend your knee to pull your heart forward, and exhale, bow down. One more time with your own breath. Inhale. Stay here for a moment, pulling your toes towards your shin. Breathing. You can start to walk your way forward. Heel toe your foot out to the side to take your hand on the inside of your foot. Bend your back knee. You can sway your back foot from side to side a couple times, or any other way that your body wants to shift around here. And you can keep your knee bent or drop your foot to the floor, either way. You can point your right toes and knee out to the side, send your right arm forward, inhale your arm up and back. Maybe take your hand to your hip, to the inside of your knee. You could also reach for your heel or your ankle. Try to stay flexing through your back foot if you reach for it. We don't want to see any rounding of your outer ankle or weirdness in that foot in general. You can start to lift your arm up toward the ceiling, point your toes back forward, and lift your back knee. Pull your chest forward and your hip back away from your right shoulder. Sometimes I like to just do a little wiggle. Start to walk your hands over to the left and then out a ways in front of you, just however far feels good for you. Keep lifting up through your hips and pushing back through your right hip. Breathing fully, and then walk your hands back to neutral. You can lift your hips and walk your way to the center of your mat, toes slightly pointed inward for a wide-legged forward fold. You can sway side to side here. Micro bending in your knees to tilt your hips forward. Big inhale, halfway lift, and then exhale, walk around to the front of your mat. Step back into your downward facing dog and take a deep breath. Inhale, left leg up, bend your knee, open your hips to the side of the room. Make 3 big circles in each direction. One more inhale to pull your knee up toward the ceiling, and then exhale, step all the way forward to your low lunge. Again, hands to your hips, mindful of your front knee. Don't let it cave in toward the center line of your body. The more you tuck your pelvis, the more you'll feel it in the front of your right hip. One more inhale, maybe you sink deeper. And exhale, bring your hips back, find your blocks, and forward fold. Pull your hip back, chest forward. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, release down. Inhale, pull your heart forward, and exhale, forward fold. One more time. You can stay in the forward fold for another breath or two, micro bending in your knee to lengthen through your chest, still pulling your hip back. And start to walk your way forward. Heel toe your foot out to the side. Maybe you like to bend your back knee. Try swaying your foot from side to side, or however else your leg wants to move around, if that's too weird or not weird enough. Find what feels good for you. Start to point your left toes and knee out to the side. Maybe you keep your back knee bent as you inhale your left arm forward and up. And then to wherever it wants to go on this side. Find your variation on this side and find your breath, breathing fully. If you decide to reach for your back foot, keep your heel flexed. And then when you're ready, bring your arm back up, point your toes back forward, lift your hips. Start to walk your hands over to the right, keeping your legs in a lunge, and then walk your hands out away from you to wherever far they want to go. Keep lifting through your hips, pulling your left hip back, breathing deeply, and then take your hands back to neutral. You can lift your hips, walk to the long edge of your mat, wide leg forward fold. You're micro bending in your knees to tilt your hips forward, so not rounding through your low back. Big inhale, halfway lift. You're going to point your left toes out just a little, right toes up, and walk your hands over to the left as you bend your left knee. Maybe it looks like a side lunge. Maybe you lower your hips all the way down to the floor. Maybe you're somewhere in between. Should feel really nice. You're breathing deeply. And then when you're ready, lift your hips, walk back to the center and switch feet. So right toes point out, left toes point up, and you bend your right knee just however much it wants to bend on this side. And then an inhale, we'll lift your hips, walk back to center. Toes point in and forward fold one last time. Maybe sway side to side. Maybe you'd rather be still. Inhale, halfway lift. And then walk to the long edge of your mat. Step forward. Inhale, lengthen through your chest. Then exhale, deep bend in your knees. Touch your belly to your legs. Let everything hang forward, melting toward the floor. You could grab opposite elbows and sway side to side. Hands could also be resting on the ground, maybe behind your legs or behind your back, wherever they want to go. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Step back into a downward facing dog for a deep breath. And then you can lower into a seated position. Extend your legs out to each side. Doesn't matter how far apart. You can take glutes out from underneath sit bones. Maybe bend your knees to tilt your hips forward. Make sure that your low back isn't rounding. And you can just kind of sway side to side, feel into the differences in between the back sides of each leg. And if you'd like to move with your breath, you can inhale, lengthen through your chest, and then exhale, melt down into whatever kind of forward fold. So inhale, pull your heart forward, tilt hips forward, and exhale, release down. Maybe move a couple times with your breath. Maybe swaying or shifting side to side, or any other kind of movement here. Maybe you'd rather be still. And then come up to seated. You're going to stack your shins on top of one another. So pick one leg to be on top, and it could be really helpful to have a block or a blanket underneath your top leg if it needs some support there. If it feels good, you can take your shins parallel with each other, just on the floor. Take glutes out from underneath sit bones, lift your chest, and then pull your heart forward. And again, you can sway side to side. You can twist. You can be still and breathe. If you feel like you want to move around in any particular way, then listen to your body, listen to the cues that it gives you, and honor what feels good. When you're done on this side, you can make your way up, take your hands behind you and extend your feet up overhead, and then cross legs so the opposite leg is on top. Maybe a blanket or pillow underneath your top leg or hip. And take your time to shift around, make sure that it feels good on this side. Find your breath. Find your movement. See where your body wants to go on this side. Notice how it might be slightly different on this side than it was on the other, or maybe a totally different experience. Just noticing, honoring your body's experience. And then gently begin to make your way up into neutral. You can unwind your legs and come all the way down onto your back. Bring your feet wide, sway your knees from side to side like windshield wipers. And then extend your feet up overhead. You can point and flex through your feet or make circles at your ankles. Bend your knees and pull them down towards each shoulder using your hands or your forearms on the back of your knees. Or if you can reach, grab onto your feet and pull your knees down toward the floor to find your happy baby. You can rock side to side, shift around, or be still, breathing deeply. And start to release, let go of your legs, bring the soles of your feet together, let knees rest open to each side. You could take blocks or blankets underneath each leg to support you, or if you'd rather rest in some other comfy position, take a few moments to rest your body, relax through the fronts of your hips and inner thighs. If this is the end of your practice today, stay here for a few moments. Tell yourself a thank you for finding something that feels good in your body. And you can either move on or close off your practice whenever you're ready. Thank you for letting me be part of your practice. And I'll see you next time. Namaste.